Mayor McKay,
Here.
Vice Mayor Schroeder,
Here.
Councilmember Amundson,
Here.
Councilmember Hartman, Councilmember Jablonski.
Here.
We have a quorum, Mayor.
All right, could we please stand for the pledge?
States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone, for coming. Just so everybody's clear, this is a workshop from 6 to 7:30. The regular council meeting will start at 7:30. There's not going to be a lot of public comment allowed in this part of it because it's a workshop for us, and you all are here to observe and be a part of it. If you want to stick around for the regular meeting, in public comment, you can make comments related to whatever because nothing's on the agenda, so you can speak in public comment in the regular meeting. But in the meantime, this is a workshop for the council that you all get to observe and be a part of. So just wanted to share that with you. I'm going to we've got a map up here to show different things, and we'll be pointing out. Jeff, you have anything you want to start off with at all, or?
Sure, Mayor. I can give a quick background just to the folks who didn't attend the last workshop. What we're trying to accomplish tonight is to go through a list of uses, lane uses for the US 27 corridor that the Comp Plan Advisory Board has reviewed and recommended be allowed along the corridor. The council is in receipt of that list, and the intent is to identify any uses that should be added or subtracted from that list, and also, by extension, to determine if the comprehensive plan should be amended as needed to allow some of those uses that wouldn't currently be permitted under the comp plan. And finally, to look at allowing business uses on the west side of US 27 as well as the east side as is currently provided in the comprehensive plan.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. I want to read one other statement related to this stuff. I've asked the staff to prepare the aerial behind us now to help with the discussion tonight. The Comp Plan Board and the Council have long felt that US 27 would be the best place for future commercial development in town. As you can see, the area we're talking about is just north of the landfill and is completely buffered from residents by the cemetery. I understand residents' concerns, but the town also needs some commercial development and the revenue it will produce. That additional income to the town will help the residents and give them a cushion against increased taxes to pay for our rural lifestyle. As we consider zoning categories and permitted uses tonight, let's remember the property owner has the right to make requests. Developers understand what the market is asking for. If we limit the uses to only what we like and the market does nothing will happen. If we allow 100 different uses and the market says no thanks, nothing will happen. Demand drives development. We need to make sure we're fair and reasonable in our consideration tonight. The last thing we want is to lose property, have the development out of our control, and not have the revenue for the town. So, just as a starting point. Do you have, there's a breakdown or division of it. Well, okay. It was made a meeting, so if we wanted to take some sort of action, we could. And the choice is ours or mine to allow the public comment at this point of it. So what I would say to you is what I would like to do and plan to do is to allow the public comment to participate when the meeting starts, okay? This is a workshop for us to discuss and go over it. And if I want to reach out to somebody and ask a question specifically about something or an item, I will do that. So aside from that, I don't intend from now to 7:30 to be opening it up to the public. Okay. Oh.
Make a motion? Can we make a motion now?
For what?
Well, he's saying make a motion.
No,
What do
his,
we have
his
to make
point
a
is to
motion?
make a motion to allow public comment, I think is
Oh.
what he was looking at. Well,
If this
I
is a
guess if we
workshop,
make a motion, at that point, we'll open it up to the floor related to what the motion is. So, that part, I would go along with.
That's what I'm saying.
All right?
You'd have to opine. They're gonna ask.
So, who wants to start, or we want to discuss or look, or Keith, you want to kick it off?
Well,
Mayor, this is for you all to discuss a policy decision solely as to what you envision the future of the US 27 corridor. So this is, as you know, there's no item before you. This is just straight discussion to see if there's any commonality amongst you all on how you wish to proceed.
And it's the town's request, by the way, just so everybody's clear. This is the town's issue, not Mr. Bergeron's issue. So, go ahead.
I guess I can kick this off. Since I can remember, we have discussed commercial out on 27 forever. I looked at the list, and I think there's probably one or two key items that some of the council is not comfortable with. To take and not have commercial out there would just be a shame. This would be something that would offset the ad valorem. We don't collect a lot of money on the ad valorem. We depend on other things to come in to get us to the number that we want. Well, when you go to the bank to deposit your money, you don't say to the bank, oh, by the way, I have more money coming, I think, from this person and this place and this. You go in with what you have. So it's not that those monies won't be there, but not to try to offset it is kind of like not really securing yourself. And it will eventually catch up with you. I don't see what the big thing is. Personally, myself, and that's just a personal opinion like you all have, I don't see why we would really want to stop what's going out there. After looking with the pictures, after going over everything, this is something that, and I see there's different areas here tonight, and I'm going to only assume they're here in support of the people out west. This would have no impact that I can see at all on Sunshine Ranches. I live in Sunshine Ranches. Just to get out to that church, you're talking about traffic, maybe having more traffic on our roads. Why would those trucks traveling down 27 want to take and come into this town? So not to put something out there that would be conducive for them, I think is a waste. You know, hotel, the truck stop, slaughterhouse. That's a good one. Why wouldn't we allow a slaughterhouse? We have people that live out here that slaughter animals right on their properties. Slaughter is slaughter. It doesn't matter. Our waters aren't bad. And as far as the property owner, what I can say about him is this. He has a vested interest. He is a humanitarian. He believes more than anything in preserving the Everglades. He has a place out there. He was appointed by the governor to sit on boards to protect this. And he realizes without protecting our Everglades that we're in trouble. You cannot live your life, and I am living proof of it, on ifs and buts. What if, but. You can't live like that. And that's all I've heard from everybody out there saying, but what if they would have a spill? But what if this would happen? We're not that far away from Turkey Point. You know what's out there? There's a nuclear plant out there. If something happens to that nuclear plant, what do you think is going to happen to us and the Everglades? And like I said, I think it's a good offset. If we put some commercial out there and get the ball rolling, as far as I'm concerned, that whole corridor could be developed. It's a runway for trucks. They have nothing. They have nothing in Miami to stop and take care of the things that they need to do. If I buy a boat, I want a place to have my boat fixed where I bought it. You buy a car from the dealership up here in Weston, do you take it to Miami to get it fixed? I don't think so. So to deny somebody their right on their property to come in and try to better it for them and subsequently give money to the town, I don't understand why anybody would object to that. But before we get into a lot of it, I mean, Councilmember Hartman is on his way. And if the four of us are not in agreement on what we're going to allow out there with the ones that they took out and they absolutely do not want, that's it. It's done. Because it takes a 5-0 vote. So why would we drag this out, soapbox it, and just continue to go on till 7:30 tonight? I don't want to do that. So I don't know if we can ask right now how we all feel, or if you really want to get into this and start discussing all of it.
Well, what I'd like to do is I'm trying to get a laser pen or another pointer. I'll use a portable mic and stand up here and point out if everybody, I just want them to have a clear understanding of what this map and how it's laid out. Yeah. All right. Yeah, I don't know if people can see it, but okay. So let me give you an idea. So there we go. Yeah. Go ahead.
We do have copies of that map printed out that Emily can put out and share with the public as well.
Okay. All right. So anyhow, so the property we're talking about is from Griffin Road here down to Sterling Road, okay? And along here is a buffer of a cemetery. I think that's 660 feet. Is that correct, Emily? 660 feet? Correct. 660-foot buffer there. And then you have a few houses that butt up to the back of the cemetery there. And then you have 210. And then it goes into 209 up here, which turns into 208 if you want. It splits there. So 208. And then you have Pembroke Pines from here, and all this whole area is Pembroke Pines, okay? So the only real affected anybody or anything, if you wanted to call that, would be up here on the backside of the cemetery. With a 660-foot buffer, I think that's, nobody in that cemetery is going to complain about it, I promise you. So this is the area we're talking about. There are trucks 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I don't know how many, but I'm sure Mr. Bergeron will have an idea what that count is. But
Mr. Mayor,
I don't know. Go right ahead.
I'm just going to say that the property we're talking about is only a 400-foot depth. And the cemetery is 660.
Correct.
So we're not talking about.
And you have setback.
It's almost nothing. It's a sliver comparatively.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So this is kind of what the window is. So Mr. Bergeron being a developer and them knowing what the market is and what things will happen or what will bring, if we don't allow what the market's bearing to come and give him options to do different things, then we're not going to get a revenue stream from it. If he doesn't build it or do it or lease it or whatever he's going to do, that doesn't allow us to have additional revenue on the commercial side to keep our taxes down, which absolutely it will do, ultimately. As far as the drinking water everybody complains about and whatnot, with all the EPA and the state environmental stuff today, I mean, they're so over the top with policing that and making you put wells into check and annual stuff. I'm not familiar with all those things, but I know there's a whole lot of issues related to compliance. So whether it's a car dealership, a boat shop, a service station, whatever the case may be, I would say the protection is built in through the state and the county. Anyhow, that's kind of what my input is. I don't see why we should put handcuffs on somebody that's ultimately, obviously, he's going to make money, but if he's making money and builds something, the town's getting the tax revenue and the base from it. And some of the residents, whoever might use it or go out there, depending on what they build, it'll supply jobs. It'll do a lot of things. So, Dulcie, you want to jump back in?
Well, this is my main concern is to keep our taxes as a town per household as low as we possibly can. If we continue, and I mean continue, to not allow anything else in this town other than a house being built, our taxes are going up, folks. And maybe not tomorrow, but my 30-year-old son would probably want to be here. It's just, we have to open our eyes to the needs of the town, not the wants, but the needs, and also the needs of a developer whom is more interested probably than any of us have ever been in keeping the Everglades as pristine as possible, our drinking water as pristine as possible. I remember 40 plus years ago when we built our house out here, when Publix was on Griffin and University. That was the only Publix, okay? Flamingo was someone's dream. We used to go out to the Seminole Tea truck stop. You know where it is. We used to get our beer there when we ran out. When I was on my way to the airport, I'd stop, get gas, have them check my tires, and get a diet soda and go catch my flights. They've been there for over 43 years. Never has a gas tank ruptured. Has their mechanics dropped so much stuff in our canal that it's killed our water supply? We're on wells. I understand that. But we have to open our eyes. We killed what could have gone on Sheridan and Flamingo, which was a great supply area for anybody who has feed or tractors, anything, the tractor supply. And we killed it. Do you think anyone's going to build a house on Sheridan and Flamingo? I don't think so. And not every house being built in our town is 27,000 square feet. So the brunt of the taxes cannot be paid by 2 or 3 or 10 households. We're all in this together. I live here. My boys have been here. I lost a child in my pool here. But I have roots here. And this is something we all as a group have to consider. And I don't think anyone should scare anybody about water and this and that. We're not loading up cement all through our town as they did in Fort Lauderdale, where everything is so bad that as it breaks and they repair it, it puts pressure on the rest that's so bad, and it breaks and they have to repair it, and they have water problems. We're not like that. We're not Weston. Rick Case is right across the street. Do you think if their shop breaks down, where's their water going to leach to? Where's it going to leach to? It's going to leach to our canal and move southeast. That's the way it's going to go. That's what happened with the dump. And I just think that we have to think as a town, not as an individual who wishes this or wishes that. We have to see it as it is. We have needs in this town, and I'm not talking about I wish or I want, but we have needs. And those needs are going to be increasing our taxes. And if we don't allow anything to come into our town, or people who own property on the outskirts of our town to do what they need to do with their property within the scope of permitting, within the scope of what Florida provides or what the federal government provides, then we're hurting ourselves. I just believe that. To my core, I believe that. And we just have to think about that in my humble, I am humble, opinion. I just want people to think about it before we run racing toward the negative, because there are so many positives that it outweighs it, you know? I just want us to think about it before we go racing into oblivion. That's all.
Thank you, Delsa. Anybody next? Okay.
Doug, I'm sorry I'm late, council.
Yep.
Community, I'm sorry I'm late. Do you have a particular order you're going through? Maybe you said
No, just a workshop for us to discuss and talk about. What I stated at the beginning of the meeting, because you were late, was that I wasn't going to allow public comment unless we made a motion to do something, then I'd open it up to the public at that point. Aside from that, if they want to stay at the regular meeting at 7:30 starts and public comment, they're welcome to get up and say, because nothing's on the agenda. So aside from that, the property owners here.
This is a special town meeting that has been advertised. Therefore, the rules of a special town meeting are in effect. Public comment is allowed.
Okay. I'm the mayor, and I can direct it the way I choose.
That's my
Sorry.
understanding. Unless the mayor says no, then it's no.
So,
Mayor, can I add a 30-second
Sure,
point
go right
of
ahead.
clarification, just for some folks here that maybe haven't been following this from the beginning? Out on US 27, the town already has adopted a lane use category that allows business uses out there. Light industrial, that are environmentally neutral, that are not incompatible with the residences in the area as much as they're buffered by the cemetery. And there's sort of two issues here. We've got a list that was accepted by the council a long time ago. It was recently updated and amended by the comp plan board. So that's issue number one, is whether to accept those additional uses, which are underlined in your backup on that list. And secondly, Mr. Bergeron submitted a request that the council consider 4 additional uses. Gas stations, fuel sales is one, truck stop, service plaza with restaurant, service station, mini food marts, repair and service garage as another use, motor vehicle repairs and service stations as a third, and motor vehicle, truck, and equipment wholesale and public auctions as a fourth. So I just wanted to set that out. We don't have zoning regulations applicable to US 27 yet. The property along US 27 hasn't even been changed from the agricultural designation that it's currently got on the land use map. So none of that's happened yet. This is all kind of planning in advance for what may eventually happen there. And the uses that come out of this workshop will help us prepare zoning regulations when we get to that stage.
thanks very much, Jeff. Appreciate it. All right. Who else? Anybody else want to talk? Or
why don't we hear from the Bergerons?
all right, Mr. Bergeron or Frank, whoever wants to get up and talk.
Well, thank you.
Not sure if it's on. I don't think it's on.
Tap it. Let's see.
Testing 1, 2.
There you go.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Mr. Mayor and Councilman, thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. And, you know, I think I'll go back to, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, I was approached by the council and a lot of the residents as well of a industrial commercial employment center along US 27 due to the fact that it was a 4-lane divided highway, and of course into the future it'll probably be an 8-lane when the right-of-way that's there today, plus there is a proposal out there on a rail system coming through to connect to Dade County. And I was asked if I would be interested to be a part of a land use amendment change that would, a comprehensive land use amendment that the town would bring forward. And I said, absolutely. So we've been working on this for about 3 years, and I believe a couple of years ago, you approved an amendment to your comprehensive plan to allow a business district on US 27. If you look at the area, like what was mentioned, you have the cemetery that runs all the way from Griffin Road to Sterling Road. And Sterling Road dead ends just west of 196th Avenue and will never go through, which gives you the privacy and the quality of life that you have here in Southwest Ranches, which is the same lifestyle I live. When you look south there, you'll see the Broward County landfill, and that's over 500 acres of the landfill that this property borders on the south. If you go to the north end, the Seminole truck stop has been there for over 40 years.
Way up there.
To the north, cemetery behind, 4-lane divided highway in the front, which there's tens of thousands of 18-wheelers 24 hours a day. And I believe that's why the past council members looked at this and said this is an ideal location that we can create jobs, economical growth, and a tax base for this town without impacting the quality of life. And that's hard to find. And there's nothing that could be better than to have tax revenues to help the safety and welfare and all of the services that a town needs to provide without raising taxes. So to me, if you can do something that doesn't impact your lifestyle, which I believe is very important because I live the same lifestyle. I live out on US 27, and our family's been here for 8 generations, and we take a lot of pride in our reputation. So whatever we build, you can certainly be assured that it's going to be first class. So working through your process here, we're just trying to, I went personally, and my son and my vice president of real estate, we went to every meeting to the committee, and there was a lot of uses that were recommended up to the council. The ones that we think are important, there's about 4 additional uses that I think would create more of a tax base and more revenue and services for that main corridor. And I want you to take into consideration that the right-of-way that's out there probably in the future, and you've seen what's happened to Sawgrass, that's a main corridor. You see people traveling from Broward County to Palm Beach County. They're really not going through neighborhoods. That's a western route to get out of traffic. So I believe that we can work together and do something that's good, whether it's a Yahoo or a Wahoo, whatever they call them, or a Wawa or Cracker Barrel, and various things that can be built there. And also, this here is your environmental regulations. This is Broward County and the DEP. And I will tell you, I've worked my whole life to save the environment. I've dedicated my life to that. And when you build something like what we're building, you are heavily, heavily regulated. You actually have monitoring wells, and you have to monitor them every so many days, and then you have to report everything. And so you've got regulation where inside your town today, where there's an awful lot of uses where there's no regulation, but I can tell you the regulations are 200 pages to protect the environment. And so we're just honored to be here and hope that what we do benefits this town from a tax base and for services, and helps build your tax base and without any impact. You don't see all this traffic going down US 27 coming up Griffin Road and up Sterling Road, because Sterling Road dead ends. You see that as a main corridor going to the Turnpike and on into Dade County, or going to I-75 and across the alley, or going east to I-595 and the intersection of Sawgrass, I-595 and I-75. Nobody wants to come interior roads because it's much faster to stay on the main corridors. So I'm open for any questions, and I'm honored to be here, and I do understand Southwest Ranches is very unique, and your lifestyle is very important, and I understand that because it's the same lifestyle I live and my family, and so I want to assure you that we're fully committed to do something to benefit this town, and I'm open for any questions that you may have.
Anybody have any questions right now? Belsa?
I just want to say that I know Mr. Bergeron has been a state wildlife commissioner, and I know that your family used to wrestle alligators, which is something I never would do, but
I still do as
I
well.
know, I'm telling you, but the first thing people do when they get here, it's really not to go to the beach. It's go to the Everglades and see the alligators and see that. And I don't think that the governor of our state would have appointed you to the water management. You know, I just don't think so if he thought that you were such a bad guy.
Yeah.
And my kids, I've said it before, I don't need to say it again, but I just think we need to think about what's important, think about the needs of everybody in this town, not just a select few in this town, because whatever happens impacts every single one of us. And US 27, it's going to be 8 lanes, as you've suggested, eventually. I mean, I sell property all over the state, and I've gone that way to Sebring. I go up that to miss a lot of the highway, just like you suggested. And I don't know, I thank you for, taking care.
Yeah, and one other thing, and I'll try to be brief. That's hard for a cowboy, but any buildings that are put up there reflects the noise. And I've talked to some of the residents that can hear the 18-wheelers. I live on US 27. I'm a half a mile off the road, and they kind of shake my walls at my house. But anything that's built there is a reflection of that. And actually, US 27 is 4 or 5 times the traffic noise level is 4 or 5 times higher than your decibel level, which we will be governed by. So there can be some positive benefits from shielding a lot of that you know, you see a lot of sound walls that go up and things of that nature. Well, buildings do the same thing. And I would hope that if we can work together, that it's positive, it increases the tax base for this town, it creates jobs and economical growth, and it creates no impact to your lifestyle, which is the most important thing. And so I look forward to working with all of you and making sure we make a difference for everybody that lives here. And like you had said, I've spent my whole life trying to save the Everglades, which is important. A lot of people don't realize that's our drinking water. That's what replenishes the aquifer. So we all got to kind of wake up a little bit and make sure that as we move forward with Everglades restoration, which is the largest restoration in the history of the world, environmental restoration, that we save our drinking water and save ourselves. And extremely important, and I hope I can make a difference for all of us.
Any other questions for Ronnie? Okay, not at this time, Ron. We'll call you back up if we need you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I have a comment here. I read through the list. There was 50 things that were put on here for specifically prohibited use. And if you look through them, they're basically all about environmental. I think that's the big thing with everybody, you know, not having chemical plants and things like that where perhaps something could happen, it could affect our waters. But after reading through these 50 things, I kept thinking, okay, I can kind of get the gist of that. I hope, no matter what the outcome is, that we don't just blatantly say no and that's it, that we always keep an open mind. And if you look down your list, we have on here adult entertainment. I'm not quite sure how that's going to impact our water. I haven't figured that one out yet. No adult entertainment. I kind of thought it was funny. There was another one on here. Like I said, the slaughterhouse. That kind of bothered me because I know for a fact that animals are being killed on people's property all day, every day in this town. I can go anywhere and get a cow, get a pig, get a goat, and somebody will kill it right then and there for me. Another one was a nightclub, music hall. That's not anything to do with environmental. I mean, that's, I don't understand the reasoning for saying no to something like that. You know, it's out on 27. As long as we keep an open mind, and like I said, don't just blatantly say, no, we're never going to allow that. Because we've all sat here and used that word never as parents, as business people or whatever. And I found, God, if I found, there is no such word as never. It doesn't exist. I don't even know why it's in the dictionary, but I guess that's it for me right now.
Can I jump in?
Go right ahead, Gary.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming. Thank you, Mr. Bergeron, for your thoughts. Just to give everybody a little bit of history, as Mr. Kadams pointed out, several years ago we came up with a designated land use, what was allowable out there. It was like 50 items that the council approved. And then we were talking about putting more items on, and we decided to, and I'm giving you the short version, decided to send it to the Comprehensive Planning Board to get their thoughts, because it was a mixture of residents from across the town. And they worked on it ad nauseum for a long time. I was there, I was at all the meetings, all the discussions, and much to my surprise, they increased the list from 50 to 79 uses, with 5 more pending council approval. I was very surprised with that because I figured they were just going to stick with the 50 and that was going to be it. So the list got expanded, and the items that are listed on it, and if anybody cares to read it, they're underlined and ready to go. And then the ones in red are pending council approval, like a dental lab or industrial lab or trade and vocational school or a theatrical studio. And I'm okay with that. I'm very, I want to say, comfortable with what the Comprehensive Planning Board came back with. So let me just go on the record with that. There's 79 designated uses, and they're fairly broad-based, going from one end of the spectrum to the other. And I'm very comfortable with what they've come up with of those uses. They expanded the original 50, which we all voted on here, to add another 28 to that, plus the other 5. So in actuality, it's a little bit more than 28.
So let me ask you, what is your issue with the additional 4 that Mr. Bergeron's requesting?
My problem with that is that, it's the best way to say this, it's not 100%. There's an infinitesimal amount of problems with all these items that could possibly happen. And I don't think, I don't want to entertain them. That's how you make sure that they don't happen. You don't let them start. That's where I'm at with that. Whether it's a fuel spill, whether it's adult entertainment, whether it's a strip club, something to that, whether it's a vehicle, outboard motor shops, whatever encompasses that in those prohibited uses. There's a point where somebody's going to go, how did that happen? There's a chance that could happen. And I think the way you limit that is by not letting it get started. Those are my thoughts.
Listen, all our thoughts matter up here because as we change from a supermajority to a full majority, every one of us matters. So without us all agreeing to what we're going to allow, it doesn't happen. So
Well,
just a thought process in moving forward.
a gas station.
Go ahead.
A gas station. Seminole T's gas station. They have also, there are other things there now, but the Seminole T is a gas station, and they've also done repairs on automobiles for over 40 years. And way, way, way before the rules and regs that are there now, if we hate a gas station, let's put it near Pembroke Pines. We could put it on that end. Just saying. We could put it close to the dump. Let that be the gas station. And, but in all honesty and fairness, we do have a lot of traffic, and it's going to be increasing, not decreasing, out there. And I just think it wouldn't hurt to have a gas station. I'm not saying, you have to have a huge thing, but it would be effective for anybody, even gassing up in our town to go to the airport. That's all.
No, I don't disagree with everything you said, Delsa, as far as why we wouldn't allow it. The only thing I would question myself would be the auction. They already have it out there. Actually, it's in Pembroke Pines, and they have the insurance companies from the crashed automobiles or whatever, and it's there and it's already exists. They're doing it. So, it's happened all over the country in different places. If you don't allow it in the city limits, they go outside the unincorporated and they put it in the unincorporated area, and you got it anyway, and you don't get any benefit. You still get the traffic. You get no insurance.
I miss the sportatorium.
Yeah, no tax benefits.
Remember?
So-
And they killed that,
Well,
that- something like
but
that
you
would be
have
fun.
things
That'd
on
be
there
great.
like Carnival Circus. Is there a circus anymore? I mean, there was when I was a kid growing up. I mean, that was
Soleil, that's about it anymore.
that's about it. Yeah, unless you're just letting an elephant come and spend the weekend on your property, if that's what you want to
That'd be
consider a
Gage's
circus. There you go. Yeah. You know, guy's passing through town, just needs to rest up and let his animal rest, so he comes. It's not that I'm for it, and I don't want anybody to think that, but it was that adult entertainment. It was like, what's up
Hold
with
on.
that?
You are for that, right?
No. But I'm just saying, what would that bring? Big people.
Adults, I don't know.
I just don't get that one. I mean, when I read through this, I read through it with my husband, and of course, he read adult entertainment. I said, that's not permitted. He goes, what? Why? And I said, you know what? I really don't know. Because,
You can get that on your TV now. You don't even have to
yeah,
go
you really don't. But, you know, the shake and bake just to be there to see it, I guess. I don't know. But I would like to know why that particular one was not permitted. I mean, I'm just curious. You know, do we ask Noel? Or
Well, I
the
can tell you.
chair?
I could tell you.
Steve is here.
Tell you.
I'll be happy to tell you.
Okay.
So I've got a whole bunch of things I
Microphone.
want to cover on this. Sorry, let me get a little closer to the microphone. So I was on the comp plan board for about 10 years before I was elected to office. And, you know, to Doug's point and Gary's point, this was been discussed for years, and it had nothing to do with Bergeron up front, Bergeron's companies. We looked on the council asked us to look at the main corridors of town and look at what has the potential for commercial. So we looked at Griffin Road, we looked at Flamingo Road, Sheridan Street, and US 27. And I think everybody agrees that US 27 is an ideal location for commercial activities, but it depends. So we, at that time, you know, the concept was Griffin Road is our main street. Griffin Road is our front door. Griffin Road, we don't want to put any commercial activity on. So as you can tell, there's nothing happening on Griffin other than some landscape nurseries. Then we looked at Flamingo and said, that's a little dicey because it's right up against people's backyards at varying distances. There are potential lots in there. We focused a lot of time, though, on that area around Sheridan Street and Flamingo Road because there's, I think, a 43-acre lot, and there's some other lots contiguous to it that, you know, may make some decent commercial development opportunities. We looked at Sheridan Street, and really on Sheridan, most of it is in pines, or it's a canal on our side, or it's right in people's backyards. So we looked at the end of, 185th or 184th there, where there's a couple of landscape nurseries today, and said, I don't know, you know, if we do put commercial in there again, it's going to be right in people's backyards. So that was pretty much taken off of the, out of discussion. So then when we started looking at US 27, it's like, you know, houses will never be built there. I mean, to Ronnie's point, he said you live a half a mile off the road. I can hear trucks, when they used to have the rumble strips coming up to the light at 27, I used to hear that anytime I was out in my backyard. You'd hear the zip, 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 zip. I can hear the rice burners racing on Sunday nights. I mean, you can hear, and I'm almost a mile away. So what we came up with some principles to decide upon what should go out there. And the principles were based on impact to the community, okay? Not what's going to drive the most jobs, the highest revenue for the owner or developer. It was all about preserving our rural lifestyle. A theme there. So what we looked at to minimize impact on our lifestyle was to minimize air pollution, water pollution, noise, and crime, okay? So, you know, we talked about things like I think you were talking at some point, Ronnie, about building some sort of an attraction there. You had discussed the fact that Everglades Holiday Park was about to explode. It's really a major fishing destination. So we talked about things like maybe hotels, to go in there. Not like the guitar in Hollywood, but, something more akin to our lifestyle, 3-story, 4-story, and whatever they could do the best at there, and there's plenty of room to build hotel space and ancillary uses like a restaurant and those types of things. And we went through a list. And that's the list that nobody can figure out how we got there. That's how we got there. The board spent probably pretty close to 2 years discussing this. We got other business done too, but back and forth on these items, discussing the pros and cons in every one. And the main reason adult entertainment was thrown out is, where are the adult entertainment sites? They're not exactly in people's backyards. If you look at the ones that are on Federal Highway in, Pompano Beach, Fort Lauderdale, they're not in people's backyards. They're either in areas that are surrounded all by businesses, or they're in like the ones that, I don't know if they're even there anymore, but the ones that were over on Federal Highway once upon a time, they're in major big parking and commercial areas. They're not right in somebody's backyard. So, do we really want that in somebody's backyard? Now, let's talk about the other side of strip joints. That's really what we're talking about. Or you can call it adult entertainment. That's a euphemism. These are strip joints. I'm not going to comment on the people that go into them at all because, everybody's got their rights. But they also attract drug dealers and criminals. That's a fact. I mean, look up the police blotter in Fort Lauderdale. I did 2 weeks ago, and see the number of calls they make to the adult entertainment establishments, and it'll really curl your hair. So we looked at, and basically the list of non-permitted uses, if you've got the list, are all things that are either going to impact the environment, water or air, and I think we care about both of those things. Minimize the amount of noise. And when we had the recent discussions with Ronnie and his team, we backed off on some things. They persuaded us that to put certain types of facilities like a warehouse with refrigeration, in the past we were against that. But they persuaded us that there's noise abatement techniques. They don't put the compressors outside anymore. They'll put them inside of a room that's also air conditioned, and that contains the noise inside of the building. So we added some permitted uses here for those types of activities. So the lists that were here, and Bergeron probably asked to add another, I don't know, I don't have the number committed to memory, but my memory is, they probably asked for another 20 to 30 things. And we probably gave them half the list. But the list I have here has got all the ones underlined that they asked for. We didn't want anything to do with automobile sales, repairs, or anything like that. There's something in here right now that you can do: automobile, commercial vehicle, RV, boat, tractor trailer, parking, open air storage on that type of a lot. So if you go over to 196th and Sterling, I think a little bit south on 196th, Ronnie's got somebody's trucks parked there. I don't pay attention to what business it is, but he's got a ton of trucks parked in there. And I know he's had arrangements in the past with some of the car dealers where when they're overstocked and they can't fit them on their lots, he parks them on there. We looked at that and said, low impact, not a lot of noise when you drive a bunch of cars. As long as it's paved, we're not overly concerned about brand new cars leaking. Tractor trailers don't leak. I mean, there might be some noise from them, from the reefer, from the compressors that are on them, but I don't think they're storing product out there. They're storing empty trailers. So when we looked at what they wanted, there are things that make sense, and, we added to it. Now, somebody at the meeting who wanted everything said, we hate commercial. I don't know how you can say that when there's 79 items on here that we came up with. They can always ask for more. 79 items that are all business categories that the board accepted as something that would make sense in our town, minimize the impact on our lifestyle, and in a lot of cases produce jobs. Something like storing tractor trailers on a lot may create 5 jobs for 10 acres, but there's other opportunity. A hotel employs a whole lot of people. There's another thing that we keep hearing about, and that's tax revenue on this. Now realize, commercial property is not like your house. You pay ad valorem taxes based on the size of your home, the square footage of your home, the value of your home, excuse me, not square footage, but the value of your home. If your home is worth $100,000, you pay a percentage of that. If your home is worth $17 million, you pay a percentage of that. So it slides based on the value of your home. Commercial property doesn't work that way. Commercial property works on the square footage of the buildings and the improvements. So something like a hotel or an office building, the office building I work in, I don't know how many square feet it is, but there's 3,000 people there. I'm sure my employers pay a heck of a lot of money to the city of Pembroke Pines, the city of Miramar for taxes, because there's a lot of square footage there. It's got nothing to do with the value of the building. So I just wanted to clarify that because we keep talking about taxes and jobs and all sorts of things. So if somebody puts a shack out there and puts a bunch of trees in the ground, we don't really have much tax revenue from something like that. If a hotel goes up, I can only imagine, well, that's Seminole property, but I can only imagine what some of the larger hotels, say down on the beach, provide Fort Lauderdale in terms of tax revenue. So I wanted to give a little bit of education on that in terms of the impact to our tax base. I also wanted to mention something else. We're worried about our taxes going up. So everybody who lives in this town realizes their taxes went down last year. Okay, we reduced taxes because the town has got control of its budget. There's enough revenue coming in to fund the services that we provide. And there's another piece of information that I think Andy and our finance administrator said last month, and that's even though we gave a tax break, we have $1 million surplus this year. So I don't think the money's as bad. I think we're doing okay. I would rather see, residential other than in the areas I talked about all over town because I'd rather have more homes than more businesses. But I'm not anti-business. I've been a businessman my entire life. Russell, I put together a couple of slides. I went out, I look at what people tell me. I listen to what they say, but I also look at what they're telling me. So I wanted to, if you would put it in presentation mode, I went out to Google Maps this morning and I, took a look at what we're talking about here. I wanted to understand how big it is. I didn't see the map that was displayed earlier. I think it's in the lower right-hand side to the left of the slide bar there. If you go out to that little thing that looks like a roll of toilet paper. Okay. But the point I'm making, and you'll see it bigger in a minute.
Here, you want a PowerPoint?
That'd be great. Thank you. Wow. Surprise.
It'll come.
Monitor one, monitor.
So I wanted to point out, the impact here. So we keep hearing there's a couple of houses involved, and we don't want to do that. We don't want to do this just to protect a select few. I heard that tonight. I don't see it that way. I see the area that's up against the Bergeron property as today it's whatever it is. In the future, it's more than likely going to be homes. I mean, no, I'm not talking about the graveyard. They did, yeah, I will as soon as it's up.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I'll be happy to. There we are. All right, hold on. Let me play IT guy for a minute. Can you, you've got. Yeah.
We were looking.
I think we ought to just vote on this now.
Well, what I'm going to say is that,
There's no point in this.
well,
They're not going to approve it. You have to have 5-0.
hold on. But we can take the list that he's asking for, take it off the non-permitted, and just leave it.
I'll work with what we've got
Not
here.
unpermitted, but
That's
don't put
okay.
it.
We'll practice in
You'll see.
advance. I just whipped this up, so I'll point. So the property we're talking about, and again, if you can look at the monitors on the side, the picture's a lot better. This is the area that's in discussion. It's about 5,601 feet long, so a little bit longer than a mile. And from actually the edge of 27, because I don't know whether there's a 50-foot setback, but I figured it's safe to measure from the edge of the road. And this is all from Google Maps. Going from the edge of the road down to basically the property line that all these houses are on and properties are on, this is about 1,048 feet, okay? I don't know how many acres that is, but I don't think it matters for our discussion. So over here, I think Mr. Bergeron has been clearing that and putting some cattle on it. I don't know how far that goes across, but the important thing is between 27 and the property line of Levitt Weinstein Cemetery, it's about 312 feet.
440.
Google Earth. I'm giving you
Okay.
Google Earth numbers, guys. Yep. So in any case, oh, you got it. Fantastic. It still looks horrible on stucco, but we'll work with it. So I'm just trying to point out, so, you know, we're roughly, what's the difference? It's about 700 feet here or so. Now, from what I saw on the town map, Levitt Weinstein goes all the way to here. Is that true? Okay. So there's roughly a buffer there of whatever, 700 feet.
660.
660. Wow, all these numbers, that's good. The challenge I'm seeing here is that, Russell, if you hit the next button, I keep hearing there's like 3 houses. There's actually, what is it? There's 8 houses there now. There's about 18 pieces of property on both sides that potentially will be homes. Now, when you're sitting back there, you're saying, Bobby, you're saying potentially 5 years, 10 years. It doesn't matter. If we make all this commercial, 50 years from now, if a piece of property is developed and made into a home, it's up against a graveyard and a truck stop. Now, I doubt that Bergerons are going to use all this property on a truck stop, but the point is, this house is all the way down, and they're on both sides of the street. It's not like there's 3 houses like we've been hearing talked about in the past. So I just wanted to point out some of the logistics here. Russell, if you go to the next slide. Now, here's the important thing in my mind, and I take Mr. Bergeron at his word. I think that if he says that he has to build whatever into a truck stop to make the tanks not leak, I trust him. I mean, I don't have to trust him. The state and the county are going to hold him accountable to that. And those laws are there, and they've been improved over the years, so I don't know if his tanks will leak or not, but I know he'll do the right thing. He invited me out a couple of weeks ago to his properties to go see. I've been to his offices in the past. I've been to a number of his properties. They do a good job. They do a good job. The challenge, though, is he doesn't sell his land. He leases his land. Now, my concern here is that whatever they do up there, even though they're accountable, they don't always have control. And the reason I say that is, again, I go on Google Earth a lot. Would you go to the next slide, Russell? This is the truck stop that's on 595 in the Turnpike, and 441 is right over here. I'm sure everybody's seen it. If you go to the airport, it's on your right just before you get to 441. It's huge. They do all the things that the Bergeron's been talking about. They sell fuel, they have food, they do truck repairs. That's what we're talking about. Now, I don't know how you fit it on that piece of property we're talking about, because there's a huge amount of truck parking. There is fairly large-sized buildings. I mean, I stop at the truck stops when I travel, because to me, they're a lot better than going to gas stations. Usually the fuel's a little cheaper. There's lots of food choices, all kinds of things like that. So I use them. I don't have a problem with truck stops. But they have an impact. If you would, go to the next slide. So one of the other options that they've asked for is to have another one of these auto auction yards. Now, I got a couple of problems with this. One problem is that when I sit out in my yard if I'm on vacation and I'm home on a weekday or I'm home in the afternoon, I can hear the vehicle auctions going on. You can hear an auctioneer, and it's usually for an afternoon. Now, I want peace and quiet myself. Now, can I live with that? I do now. Do the people that are right there up against the cemetery want to hear that? I don't think they do. I only catch it once in a while because I work. But my guess is they probably have a weekly auction. I don't think I'd want an auctioneer barking out my back door, you know, however many days a week they do it. I don't know if they do it every working day or if it's once a week. But what really started to concern me when I looked at this, and this is a blob right now. I wish you guys could see that picture a little better, but these are all cars, okay? This is a drainage swale, and there's another one over here. Now, let's go to the next slide. I don't know how many cars they have in there, but the density is pretty big. This is like the airport, except the cars are parked bumper to bumper. There's thousands of cars in here. Now, again, I take Ronnie at his word that he doesn't want to create any pollution. I mean, with South Florida Water Management, that means a lot to me because I use their properties all the time. The challenge I see is that there are cars parked in the swale. Even though there's open space, there's cars parked in the swale. There's also cars parked around the perimeter. This is swale, this is road. These are cars that are all backed onto the grass. I can't say what they're doing. I can guess what they're doing. I won't say it out loud. But I don't see a lot of leaky cars in here, but I worry about what's around the outside because there's a canal right here that goes into the canal that's on 54th Place. That canal, the water goes all over the place from there. So I worry. Now, they may not even be aware of this. They don't operate this. The Bergerons lease the land. You know, I love your saying, they don't make land anymore, so we might as well lease it, not sell it. But that worries me because that's going into our groundwater today. Fortunately, for most of our town, it doesn't affect us because our groundwater goes from the northwest to the southeast. So this is far enough south that the water's probably going underneath the landscape nurseries at the south end of Griffin 345, and it's probably going under the Bergeron Park of Commerce, and it's probably going over under Laguna Isles. So it doesn't impact us that much, but I see that as a problem. Russell, can you move on to the next one? Okay, that's all for the presentation.
Could I just ask you a question?
Sure.
Where did you see the plans for the truck stop and the other thing you showed? You know,
Plans for the truck stop.
well, before this,
So these are pictures.
I understand what those are, but you said that's what they're going to put there, and I wondered if we had those plans.
Do you have plans yet for a facility you want to build? So no.
So why?
I'm going based on what they've articulated in the meetings. There are no plans yet. They're not going to invest in anything until they've got the rights to do what they want to do. So, you know, Country Estates is my district. I have neighbors and friends all over town. But when my neighbors heard that this is going on, 'cause there's been a lot of buzz in the community, my phone hasn't stopped. I've got copies of emails here. People don't want this. That's why I put all this together. There's good reasons not to have this. You know, a truck stop is, I mentioned some of the issues there. A gas station, lower impact, but, let me bring something else I noticed. Ronnie, I'm sure you run up and down 27 North all the time, up to Clewiston and South Bay and all that. There was a truck wreck about 2 weeks ago, southbound, just before you get to that big tower that's not used anymore on the west side. Truck went off the road, okay? For several days, they had the ground covered up until they dug out all the dirt. And I drove past it again last Friday, and all you can smell is diesel fuel. Now, they didn't leave the truck there. That truck got hauled likely to a truck stop or potentially to a repair garage. I don't know. But if this is the most convenient location for a truck to be hauled in that's definitely leaking fuel, I mean, you could smell it and you could see the stains in the road, then some way or another, it's going to end up on the ground and it's going to end up in our water. One of the slides that was up there shows the extent. When I started looking at it, a lot of the impact is going to depend on where they decide to put it on the property. But, you know, the further north they put it on the property, the further the spread is in Country Estates. And what we looked at is it could impact as far south, as far east in Country Estates as Country Estates Park, which is around 190th. So if you live out that way and there's an accident, and they happen, you know, you'd be impacted by it. So, Mr. Mayor, that's pretty much all I have to say about this. Hopefully I brought some more facts to the discussion.
All right. Well, sorry about that. The, under the circumstances, with your apparent strong opposition to this, that I don't see that there's a whole lot additional discussion needed on this.
Well, I think there's a little bit. We have a list here of, what is it, the 89 items that have been vetted. I'd make a motion that we accept those and move that forward for the ordinance that would be required to grant those usages to the Bergerons and start the process of changing land use and zoning.
I'm somewhat in agreement with you on that, but what I would like to do, along with that, is the list that Mr. Bergeron has supplied to us, that the other likes that he would want, if we didn't put them in the list to approval, but if we could take them off of the specifically prohibited uses and make them more neutral, that if he wants to come back and address it later on a specific case-by-case basis, that he could.
Well, it sounds good, but here, let me counter that with anything that's a prohibited use, he can always come back and get changed. I mean, this is up to the council to decide, right?
But I would say it's an easier address of it if it's not on the permanent prohibited uses list. I'm not saying put it on the use
Right.
list, but
No,
take
no,
it off
I
the.
understand exactly what you're saying. You're saying take it off the prohibited and
Yeah.
leave it out there.
Yeah.
I would rather leave that to another council, another day, or us if we have a change of heart. I'd rather leave it as strong as it is today.
Second.
You don't even.
So.
So do we adjourn for the next meeting?
Adjourn or vote?
No,
We
not
have
yet.
a-
You
There-
we have a
there-
motion in a second.
We got 10 minutes. Who made the motion?
I made the motion.
Okay.
He seconded.
Gary seconded it.
Okay. All right.
Does this
Well-
require a 5-0 or is
Yeah,
this a 3-2?
This is, you're not really voting on anything. What you've essentially asked aptly is to bring back an ordinance for the council's approval that contains all list of 89 as acceptable uses, and if I'm miswording it, please stop me, and the other uses that you mentioned as prohibited uses. So at that point, it will be fully debated by the council and the public. So you don't even need a motion. All you're saying is you're directing town staff to bring back that ordinance. You could direct when you would like it back so that everyone here can come and debate it at that time.
Okay, I mean, I thought a motion would give you the opportunity to take that then and move forward with it.
You're giving us direction, so you're requiring us to do it anyway.
Okay,
So when would you like to, Jeff's here, he's going to be drafting it. When do you want it back before the council?
so I'll open that up to the council. I mean, I don't want to make that decision on my own. And also, Jeff, how quickly or how slowly or?
I think that it's not appropriate to bring it back in ordinance form until we have everything that goes with it. It needs to be a complete set of zoning regulations, not just a use list. I think
Okay,
we know where council stands on the use list. We can, when we have the entire ordinance with development standards, parking, signage, all those things that go into a zoning ordinance, we know exactly how to deal with the uses in that ordinance that we bring to you.
so we don't want to put a time or date certain on it, constrain you.
No, I would suggest that you don't.
Okay,
So I guess they're looking for direction. We need to direct Andy and his
so
team
Mr. Mayor, do you want to give them direction?
Well, I'm not sure. We haven't voted on your motion on where we're at, so.
So
Is
I
that a
probably need to
3-2?
withdraw my motion because it's not appropriate. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not saying it's not appropriate.
No,
by
no.
any means.
No,
Keith is saying they
legally,
don't need it.
legally, it's fully appropriate. You can make any
Okay.
motions you want, but all your motion is really saying is to bring it back. So we're gonna do that anyway.
Okay, so then I withdraw it.
Right, so then the only issue that we have, if I can read the commonality, is what I stated previously, which is there appears to be 5 votes on the council to at least bring back and approve the 89 uses as approved and list the other ones that you say as prohibited. So what Jeff is saying is that he has to write all the use restrictions in on that, and as such, he doesn't want to guarantee you a time frame to bring it back at this time. But if that's the consensus of the council, of course, we're going to do that regardless.
Jeff, ballpark, just so the Bergerons know what to expect. 3 months, 6 months,
Could
a
I
year?
ask a question before you do the ballpark?
Go right ahead.
One of the things that is acceptable, underlined acceptable, are fuel storage. We can't have a gas station, but we can have a fuel storage.
Would you like me to explain it?
No, you don't have to explain
Okay.
it. Fuel is fuel. Stored or not, it's fuel. And I just don't quite get it, but go ahead with your estimate or whatever.
So you can either use fuel as a primary use, like a gas station.
I'm not a kid. I got this.
You know what an ancillary use is?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, so it's an ancillary use, it's not a primary use.
It just says fuel storage. That's all it says here. See? And it's underlined, fuel storage, accessory permitted uses,
Accessory-
subject to limitations, right?
Accessory permitted uses.
Right.
So it's not a
So,
primary
so a
use.
gas station still would have to be permitted as well, right?
Hey guys, if I could add a dose of reality here.
Go ahead,
We
yeah.
have 2 gas stations in our town right now.
Mm-hmm.
Does anybody have any idea how much revenue that is to our town?
I think Tom Thumb's about $6,000 a year.
So actually a little more than that.
Okay,
Each one of them's about 12,000.
12,000, okay.
Which is helpful. Thank you.
That's less than $5 a person.
Mr. Bergeron, come on up.
Whatever.
Just thought I'd point that out.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. But the one thing I'd like for you to consider as we move forward is that we can't go forward with anything without this being resolved. You know, so we'd appreciate if you can expedite that. The other thing I would like for you to consider is you have a lot of uses, and we're fine with all that. But some of the uses like boat sales, but you can't repair the boat you're selling. Tractor supply, you can't repair what you're selling. And I would certainly like for you all to at least consider, because if you can't warranty what you're selling, you really can't sell nothing. So even though those uses are permitted, you know, you have to be able to repair and warranty what is permitted. And if you could consider that, you may want to ask Jeff about that, because I think there was some question about you could sell tractor supply equipment, but you can't repair it, or you could sell a boat, but you can't repair it. So, am I correct on that, Jeff?
I believe that you are correct.
Yeah. And so you're really approving the use, but you can't really do it with. So that's something I would certainly like for you all to consider. I would also like you to consider possibly a gas station, but if we can't get there, that's fine. Yeah, you know, even if it was down next to the 500-acre dump. I think it's it's a location that's up to a 500-acre landfill with an asphalt plant behind it. You may want to just keep that in mind. And, you know, we want to work with you. We're not,
there's some things there that I think would be very beneficiary to services for your community with no impact. And I will tell you, if you look at the 200 pages of environmental protection, you'd be overwhelmed what you have to do to protect the environment. And I can tell you on a personal basis, I spend half my life trying to save the environment, so my reputation is more important than my business success, I can tell you that. We all live here together, and I think everyone, when we started this 3 years ago, recognized that that strip of land on US 27 was brought forward by this council. And 3 years ago, no one's going to build a house out on US 27. There's just no way. So, and there is no impact, and we are tremendously buffered. And of course, behind, just east of the cemetery, is a school that's got nearly as much traffic that's on US 27. But I think it's a win-win, and we're looking forward to working with you. But if you can consider that, that we can repair, what we're selling. Otherwise, those uses
They're of no use to you if you can't do that.
Yeah, the 89 uses that you're talking about that we've worked so hard on, it would be appreciative that if we can repair what we're selling, and we would like to have a tractor supply, and I think a lot of your residents want one out here, and maybe that can happen.
Yeah, they don't repair, they don't sell tractors, and they don't repair. They're basically a retail store.
Right, but you have approved some uses here that you really can't do if you can't repair it, and so I would appreciate you considering that. I mean, thank you.
Basically, a car dealership would be out of the question because you couldn't fix it.
No, you got to warranty whatever you sell, and I will tell you, the regulations and the chances of an environmental impact under the regulations of a development will be 100 times safer than stuff that's stored in your pastures and stored in your commercial nurseries, and this is heavily regulated. So I would appreciate that as we move forward, and thank you
All right.
a lot for your.
Lonnie wanted to jump in here. Go ahead,
One
Lonnie.
example, we have Pines Mower that a lot of the businesses that work within
Robert.
Southwest Ranches, he services the lawnmowers and all that. He is dying to expand his business to bring Polaris and a couple other lines on. They would be the ideal candidate they do work on the stuff, and they repair the mowers, and they sharpen the blades and all that. So there are local uses that benefit local businesses more so than, the boat. A lot of people go fishing. A lot of people in this room go fishing. So, there are exceptions to the rule, please. So.
Go ahead, Ron.
The thing, whether it's ever approved or not, but your auto auction now, everything is going on computers. So it's a lot different than, some microphone out there and all. It's actually 90% of it is online, where you're actually buying these cars off of a computer.
Yeah.
So just to give you an example. And thank you very much for your time.
Hey, Lonnie, item number 50 addresses Robert. Lawnmower rental, sales, repair, and service. We thought about him. He's got a lot of my money.
Mayor,
Yes.
I spoke to Jeff at a sidebar. He's going to shoot, if the council is okay with it, to bring back a complete ordinance by the second meeting of May, which would be May 28th, which gives him essentially 90 days to get it together.
Okay.
If there's a problem in between, he'll report back to you. But he just wants to confirm, and I think this was your intent, that it comes directly to you all, and that there's not another board that's going to slow this up for another
That's correct.
4 or 5 months.
Yes.
Is that the will of the council?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so then we'll shoot for May 28th to bring it back before you in an ordinance form.
Need a motion.
Okay. All right.
Jeff, just a couple of questions. So you've got to create zoning changes, which are one ordinance, and you've got to create land use comp plan changes, which is a second ordinance. So I know, having sat on the board for years, that's a lot of work for you and a lot for us to review, because you know how it works. You got to go over it line by line. You're comfortable with 90 days, given all that work? I mean, I'm questioning it because I've been through the process so many times.
The comp plan amendment ordinance is basically prepared at this point.
Okay.
So it's just a matter of getting it in front of council.
Okay.
We were holding off on that pending where you stood, what direction you were going to provide on the use list. Okay. As far as the zoning ordinance, I will shoot for the end of May. As Keith said, if we feel like we can't get it done right, we'll let you know and look for a little bit more time. But the nature of this zoning district, as required in the comp plan now, is that essentially it's a planned zoning district, meaning that a lot of things are going to be up to the council to see and approve, to see if they like it, essentially, as opposed to something very prescriptive, where everything has to be set back 50 feet and those types of things. So there will be minimums, there'll be requirements that are safeguards, but a lot of things, the way it's anticipated to be drafted, would be left up to council when they review development proposals. So I'll get into it. I will get my feet wet. And if it does seem like it's unrealistic to get it to you in late May, then I'll give you plenty of advance notice if that's the case.
So then if this one's smooth and didn't require a lot of changes, I'm just trying to help them plan. It sounds like by the end of June, maybe sometime in July, we would be wrapped up with this.
With the zoning aspect?
I'm talking about the whole package, not the development use.
Potentially,
I realize
yes.
that's on a per request
Potentially,
basis.
yes.
Okay. So there's your number.
Is this going to be mirrored for the opposite side of 27 for the
Both
the
sides.
west side, for both sides? So whatever applies to this would apply for the other side as
Yes.
well, correct?
I believe that's the intent of council,
Yes.
so that's what we would do, yes.
Okay.
Thank you, folks.
All right. Well, I guess let's adjourn this meeting, bring that, and we'll continue this discussion on these items moving forward. So let's take a 5-minute break before we start our next meeting.